I'm a multidimensional human first, and that's always going to be at the center of my business, because without acknowledging my humanness, my business is nothing.
When you kind of get out of your head and you just do what feels good, it snowballs so fast and in ways you never could have imagined.
My community is full of such brilliant humans, and I think this is a really important part of the conversation, is like, it's creating before I consume, not instead of.
It's also just that mindset of like, you might offend somebody, but you also might help somebody feel like they're not the only ones who feel the way that you do. Do you want to just dive in? You want to tell me how your day is going?
My legs feel like jello. I just got home from the gym.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's good though.
Oh my
Feeling
God.
good.
Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday is like a must. Braden and I have like prioritized those mornings for our fitness. And it's honestly like the last 2 weeks, I'm having a really similar experience in my business right now. Actually, the last 2 weeks have just been like, all of the results are starting to show up in the gym. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Because I just like distinctly remember like a month ago just being like, wow, like nothing seems to be working. I'm like working my butt off and I'm not seeing any progress. And yeah, just the last 2 weeks I've been like blowing my own mind, and climbing is such a tangible place to see that. So yeah, it's been really fun, really gratifying.
And so you said though, you feel like this is the same as your business?
Oh yeah.
Tell me more.
I don't know. I don't remember the exact timeline, but it was somewhere between the last like 3 and 6 months. I made the decision to fully expand the way I was sharing the work I was already doing. And I've talked about this a little bit on Instagram. I've had so much resistance to like business, like the word business, using it in my like online vernacular. Same with money. Like that's another kind of edge that I'm going to probably be flirting with soon. But every client that I've ever had, even my first program that I had ever launched, Soul Sovereignty, like half of the program was oriented around like legacy and mission work and really becoming the leader that is capable of holding a business and a brand and a vision that's bigger than yourself. And so I've always been working with my clients in the context of business, but I was like, I don't want to talk about it because I just feel a lot of charge and shame around business. So in the last few months, I've really just like called a thing, and which is so important, right? Like the things that you're resistant to are usually the places where you're really here to like shine and flourish. And yeah, there's just been so much more clarity in like my messaging and a lot more honesty and authenticity, and just like really allowing the depth and dimension of myself and my work to be seen. And I've just been having so much fun with Amplify too, with the launch of Amplify, which is basically like a subtle to structural business mastery ecosystem that I'm creating. And the reception that I've been having has just like, I've never experienced the amount of interest, and just like, I've had so many people coming into my field like, holy shit, I can see, like tangibly see and feel a change in everything that you're doing. And I love it. And I want to be a part of it. And just so many opportunities have been coming into my field, like getting to be here with you. I was invited to see if there's a goodness of fit to be published in. Yeah, I'm just like, what? So yeah, it's just been really fun.
I've been feeling the same way in the last couple of months. And there's a few themes that you touched on for me that are like so bang on. And it's first with the fitness. Like I had this epiphany this year where I always gave myself the trust, where I was like, if I work out and I'm consistent and I, mindful of what I'm eating, taking care of my body, like it will pay off. It could take a long time, but if you keep putting that work, it'll pay off. Like that is fact. And because you would hit those plateaus and you can see the physical change, energy changes, and it's so tangible. And for some reason, historically, I was never giving my business the same breadth of energy that if I'm consistent and I stick with it, I would do things, but I never really gave it I'm going for it kind of energy. And then it's just in the last couple of months, I was like, I don't understand why I don't think it would have the same outcome. And when you're working with something like not in the physical world, when it's your business, it's more your energy, putting it out there. It could happen, I don't want to say overnight, but kind of overnight. Like the change
It
can be
happens fast.
a lot
Yeah.
faster than, when you're working out. Like that does, like moving matter takes time. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love that you touched on how you're seeing that though in the physical world of your body and then also in your business. And then the other theme I love, because I feel like I just wrote a post on this, about just being like having fun and like
Yeah.
being joyful. It's like, where did we get this idea that we had to like struggle or like, right, like can't talk about business, like that feels weird, or where when you kind of get out of your head and you just do what feels good, it
Mm-hmm.
snowballs so fast and in ways you never could have imagined, which I mean, we should know, we know this stuff, but
Yeah.
somehow we like block it.
Yeah. It's really easy to get in your own head. And like, I know personally in the context of business, for instance, there are certain things that I see happening in the industry, in spaces that I know I want to do differently, and that I've been personally like really prickled by the way they are normalized. And it took me a little while. Like one of the foundational pieces of the business that I'm building and the legacy that I'm building is that it's built on integrity. And I don't ever want to normalize for myself this culture of gossiping or tearing something else down in order to build myself up, or just like constantly creating comparison or competition, and using the feedback, the data of like, okay, that doesn't resonate with me, and then being able to distill my own values into the way I show up. And I think it did just it needed to be as long as it was for me to really ground myself in how I wanted to do things before I could fully show up that way and do it from a place of joy and do it from a place of fun, and like really clean up all of the parts of me inside that might have slipped into comparison, or might have done the things that I didn't want to necessarily be perpetuating in my own business. There was just maturing that had to happen before I could show up at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's funny. It's like you always wanted to get here. And then when you get there, you're kind of like, oh, like you knew it kind of all along, but you're still grateful for what you went through to get there.
Yeah.
So how long have you had your business for?
Oh man, it's had so many different iterations. I started a business in 2018 as a holistic health coach, and very quickly realized that although I'm really passionate about wellness, and I know you and I have talked about how like proudly crunchy we are, just like every health rabbit hole, every alternative opinion,
Slippery
we're like, yep,
slope,
been there.
slippery slope.
Exactly. And for good reason. Like when I had started my business, I had just been in a rock climbing accident and was on my own like 4 or 5 month healing journey, having to like relearn how to walk. I had a pretty bad diagnosis, and I was basically told like I have pretty high odds of having to fuse my ankle. And so naturally I was in a process with my own health. But as I kind of progressed in that iteration of my business, I was like, man, there's so much of me that's missing from the container of holistic health coaching. Like it's not, there's a part of me that's really what some people would call like woo-woo or etheric or esoteric. And so I like swung way to the other side of like, I'm doing only spiritual stuff and human design readings and energy work and quantum healing. And that was kind of woven into my business structure. And as I did that, I was meeting a lot of clients that were also really interested in applying those principles to business, to entrepreneurship, to something that they were building. And so organically, I just kind of started bringing in my 10-year marketing, business, entrepreneurship background into what I was doing. And I would say like this iteration of my business probably was birthed in late 2019. And it's been so fascinating to watch how it's morphed and evolved and transformed into what it is today. And in my bio, one of the things that I lead with is like, I'm a multidimensional human first. And that's always going to be at the center of my business, because without acknowledging my humanness and without acknowledging all of the depth and dimension of who I am, my business is nothing. And so that really like underpins everything else that I do.
Yeah. And so when you made that transition, did you find that who you were helping was different? did it attract a different person, or is it like still,
Um,
did a lot of people like shift with
Still
you?
quite similar, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably a testament to just the quality of relationship that I build with my
Yeah.
clients. But a lot of the people that were in my world in 2018, 2019, 2020, I've either worked with them for a really long time, they've come back into my world, I've collaborated with them in different ways, I've had them on my podcast. So most of the people have stuck around, and now it's just been like I'm creating greater capacity for even more aligned community to come into my space, which is like everyone that was already there was already amazing. And it's just getting to see even more of that show up, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just for our listeners who may not fully understand the scope or breadth of what you do, can you walk us through, like, if somebody comes to you, what is like a typical issue that they're having? Like, do you find people come to you looking for straight up marketing advice? Or do you think it like is like it's under different layers?
Oh, it's so layered and it's so nuanced. So what I formally call myself, multidimensional human first, mission mentor, and business artist is kind of the catch-all that I've come to. And mission for me encompasses so many things. Like there's a post that I often refer to of mine that says your mission doesn't flourish until you do. And that's such a big part of the work that I do is like, okay, you as a whole human who is a visionary and a leader and an artist and a creative and someone who sees such beautiful potentials available in the world and sees different ways that you can fill those potentials through your expression, through your work. And create a legacy. How do we get to support you as the whole human in all of those facets of yourself? So a lot of the work that I do with my clients doesn't even start with business. That's like down the road. It's like we start at the foundation of my body of work, which is often coherence, energetic coherence, really cleaning up your field, cleaning up your energy, creating alignment with your energy and your embodiment, getting really clear on your values and your vision. A lot of the time that has to do with like your relationships, your relationship to yourself, the way you're showing up to really mundane human shit, like working out and feeding yourself and going outside. Like we're just complicated houseplants.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time that's where it starts. And then once we've created just a really beautiful sense of like grounding and peace and anchorage in your being and in your energy, that's when the conversations start to get bigger and we start really vision casting and holding and refining the vision and identifying how that fits into whatever vehicle you choose. I mean, I haven't just worked with entrepreneurs. It's been moms. There's been humans that work in corporate jobs, the whole gamut, and really just refining how you get to create connective tissue between the vision and the legacy. And so sometimes that is in business, and I get to really pull in my marketing and my business background. With a couple of my clients, we've done everything from like planning out the entire business ecosystem in a really artful way, creating the architecture, the systems, the structures, offers, pricing, all the way to like actual like website copy, refinement, branding. I've really touched it all in my career. So I have this really unique ability to support in basically the entire experience of entrepreneurship, which feels so beautiful and just like so perfect when a big part of my message is multidimensionality.
Yeah. And I get that because I feel that so much, because it's so like, even in my business, people are always like, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, a little bit of everything. Because I just can't imagine like a touch point of like, oh, here's how you do like your content creation. It's like, well, if you don't have a strong vision, foundation, values, what's this going to be? Nothing. And so I like so get that and feel that in my bones, right? People ask you for one little piece, and it's so hard to help in such a small scope when you can see this like plethora of other issues that need to kind of get taken out. And the biggest thing I think too, and I think it's great that you include this, is there's so many stories that go on in people's heads that I mean, and it happens in our own, that that what we think is the issue is so often not the issue. When I work with business owners, it's so often like, oh, I don't have time or I'm busy. And I'm like, you're just not excited about what you're talking about. When you are speaking on something that really brings you joy, you will have unlimited things to help people with. And that's the other thing. It's like, if you're just genuinely here to help people, it's when we get all wrapped up in these like shoulds or like the comparison. That's a huge one. Sometimes I really wonder when I have a new idea, because I know you like research is important, but sometimes I feel like it can be detrimental to our creativity. And we're influenced, right? That idea that like none of our thoughts are really our own thoughts.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you draw the line for going into creation mode, even in your own business, right? Like coming with new programs, like you said, like I feel like I, in the last couple months, just took a step back and really got back. Like I'm like back to the basics. Like, what do I like doing? Where am I spending my time? What's the point in all of this? And not caring what other people did, because there is obviously like no one road to do it. So, I'm curious how you kind of battle that comparison aspect.
I have had to, for a myriad of reasons, just develop some boundaries with myself. I know that I can get really lost in comparison. And if I know that there's creative work that's on my plate, and I feel like this conversation has gone in many directions on the internet in the last few weeks, but I have a practice of creating before I consume something. So just really keeping my channel clear. And if I know that something is coming through, I make sure that there's a lot of space for it to come through. And a lot of my business has been, honestly, like it hasn't been something I've strategized or planned. It's been received. And in order to receive, you have to be open and you have to be present. And I feel like every single business pivot, idea, trajectory has been so God-led. It's been like, where can I go? And God places an initiation in my field to be like, this is what you're working with right now. This is where I'm qualifying you. And in order to be receptive enough to even notice those things, I need to often quiet the noise and just really be in my own energy, in my own space. But that's not to say that I don't love tapping into the field of inspiration often. Like my community is full of such brilliant humans. And I think this is a really important part of the conversation is like, it's creating before I consume, not instead of, not over consuming. It's where can you find the harmony between honoring your own creative process enough so that you can actually be in alignment with what you're meant to be doing?
Yep.
And then also tapping in and touching in with your community so that you can receive the inspiration and the data and just like get a sense for what your people are desiring and what they're moving through as well. So that's kind of how I've approached it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, again, we get so like distracted by strategies, or that was the big shift for me in this last little bit was like, I don't need a new strategy. I don't need like there's no new thing. It's again, like I said, kind of bringing it back to the basics, because a lot of the issues are the same issues, just in different scenarios. And like you said, like a lot of clients are talking, even just like I'll go in my DMs or like into the comments and you can see what people are asking. You can see their pain points. And I don't mean like pain point, like I sometimes, pain points, like it's a marketing term. I mean, like just generally what people are struggling with and how, you can help them, and leading with that. And the biggest thing too was the like stop over consuming for me. And not be afraid to share my own thoughts on things. Like I was saying to somebody, I was like, my content feels very typical how to vanilla-y. And I was like, I know I'm not, like I've got a lot more spice and zhuzh to me. And I was like, I need to just start showing up that way. I don't know why I haven't in the past. And I mean, the online space has been a little chaotic in the last couple of years. So it's been scary to like say what you actually feel without being in fear of getting in trouble by somebody about something.
Do I ever resonate with that? Like, I feel like that was such an issue for me. It was just like this crippling fear of like cancellation.
Yes.
It took a long time to be like, fucking try me. Like, I'm not cancelable. I'm a child of God. Like, what are you going to do? Erase me from the planet? I don't think so.
And the idea is like, it's also just that mindset of like, you might offend somebody, but you also might help somebody feel like they're not the only ones who feel the way that you do on said topic. Yeah. And so I've tried to like start pushing the boundaries with that, but I 100% agree with I love that. What was it? Create before you consume idea, because if anything, it's just going to magnify whatever you've decided to create. And then also tapping into your community, because there are so many hidden gems, and like having conversations like this, it's like, I'll walk away from this and I'll probably have like 20 ideas or things I want to, expand on. I'll probably call you, but like, let's just chat again.
Okay.
But I think that's the biggest thing, is just kind of getting back to that human connection piece. Like, we're all real people. We all have real feelings. Like, get off your screen. Even though that's where like I always find this is such a contradiction. And I feel like you touched on it too, where, even using the word business in your business, it's like, I preach so much, like, get off your phone, go live your life. When then I also say, like, your whole business can be on your phone and on the computer. But I think it's a really important balance to infuse into everything that we do.
And this is one of the big reasons. I love that you touched on that, because one of the tenets of Amplify, I've called it for a reason, a subtle to structural business mastery ecosystem. And the subtle is like really speaks to the energetics and the artistry and like all of the more intangible elements of how to not just build a business, but a legacy that has longevity. The second piece, that structural integrity, is so important, because without it, you probably will be attached to your phone like an appendage, and like not able to take the space or time or have just levels of ease in your business, unless you've built something structurally that can hold your vision and create points of flow and alignment where there weren't before. And so that's like a huge part of the work that I do personally and with my clients, is like, where are the areas that my business is starting to actually siphon my life force, and how can I look at those really creatively and create something bespoke for me, for my energy, for my vision, that's going to support me in opening up my energy and taking care of that process for me, so I don't constantly have to be thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we can, and the best part is those types of, again, it's a mindset shift. It's not just like, here is a practice I do and it works for the specific situation. It's like changing the way you see stressful situations or things that are not always positive. How can I shift them to a more positive light? And what are some tactics I can do to find a better process in doing that? And you can apply that to anything, right? Like I said, even working out, or like if you're cooking, cleaning your house. It's like, if I dread doing this all the time, how can I change this situation and do it in a way that fits for me? It doesn't have to be how somebody else has done it. Like, what makes sense for me? And I think those types of values for business, when you can help people with that, I think is so transformative, because it will bleed into all other parts of their life. So is Amplified a live program? Can anybody join at any time? Give us the details.
It's not a rolling program, but it probably will be a returning one. I have a feeling it is going to just expand and evolve really beautifully. So the way I've structured it is, it's a 5-month experience. There's basically 4 months of curriculum that we go into in biweekly calls. So one training call and one Q&A, kind of hot seat mentorship space, where all of the things that we're working on in each pillar, you basically get the floor as a client, and you get to really have my eyes and ears on your specific business. And there's also a masterminding component. So there will be a Voxer space for everyone to just kind of co-lead. I think this is especially important in the realm of a business mastery ecosystem, a business-oriented program. Is the first pillar that we go through is your leadership skills. And what better way to apply them actively than in a space, peer-to-peer, shoulder-to-shoulder with other leaders. So there's kind of those like 2-3 elements, I guess: the curriculum, the live training, and then the masterminding. So the mastermind actually extends to 5 months. So there's 4 months of curriculum, and then there's an extra month of like continuity to really have space to integrate and apply and just really incubate within a space and other leaders to be supported with. And there's kind of 2 pieces to Amplify. Like I said, the subtle and the structural, that we really get to focus on. So the first half of it is really those like subtle, softer leadership skills, maturity, capacity, visioning, creating a lot of clarity and coherence. And then we actually move into like, let's roll up our sleeves, plunge our hands into the soil of your business and like build out your offers, build out your messaging, set the pricing, create a business structure that really works beautifully for you, and then apply all of those things in a way that lets your business feel like play, that lets you be really artful. And I use the words weave worlds a lot. And this is one of the, I'm just so drawn to this concept. And I'm going to use like a really mainstream example for this. But when you think of like Disney or Harry Potter, you're immediately like dropped into a whole different multiverse.
Yeah.
There's like entire experiences and characters and colors and textures and sounds that you immediately associate with that. And I think building a really iconic, legendary legacy business requires that level of artistry. And so that's kind of the realm that we play in as we wrap up the container.
I love that. I also love Harry Potter. It's so funny.
Right?
I'm like jumped back into my like fantasy reading as an adult. If you know, kind of thing. And I was just having a conversation with a girlfriend about it where I was like, the world building is a little intense in some of the books I've been reading. However, it is insane. Yeah, you drop in, and I always said that about Harry Potter from the books to the movies is I don't think there's a person out there that was like, oh, that isn't how I imagined it at all. Right? Yeah. Like they did such a good job. And it's not just one piece. It wasn't just the books, but then like the movies came out, and then there was like the soundtrack, but then like the look, the feel, the touch, and all those pieces created something so massive, right? Like you said, or like with any of those big brands. And I think with our own personal business brands, we can do that as well. As long as we really look at it's all of the things. I'll have clients that'll be like, oh, I don't know, like they'll care about like a Instagram post, or like they'll get caught up on metrics of like views and likes or followers. And I was like, none of that really matters. Or I once had a client who like her product wasn't in every photo. And I was like, that doesn't matter. They should be able to look at this photo and know it's yours just by like based on the feeling that your brand gives. And I think that's where I love that weaving of worlds, because it's like you're bringing people into your world. You talk, and you do this beautifully, because anytime your posts come up, I'm like, I know it's yours right away based on like the aesthetic, the words you use, right? You have like I think you just talked about this recently, but you have like I always say it's like giving somebody a verbal hug when you talk.
Thank you.
But right, it like really brings people into your world, and that can show up in so many different places. And if you, again, circling back to what we started this conversation with, if you're doing it from a place of like just pure joy and wanting to help people, you can show up so many different ways. And I think that's really amazing that that's in your program. And I also love the extra month of kind of implementation integration. I just finished a program and it was like, hey, want to go on to the next step? And I was like, no, I need like a hot second here. And they like used it like a negative, right? Like, oh, don't let the momentum stop. And it gave me like this instant ick feeling where I was like, I don't want to have somebody hold my hand the entire way. I mean, because they do offer group like sessions afterwards. I was like, that's great for me, because I need to build the confidence to integrate this stuff into my life, to like prove to myself that I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, whether or not I'm in your program. And I think and I love that you put that focus on there while still having support for them to get through.
This was honestly one of the things that even in the first program that I ever launched, Soul Sovereignty, one of the things that I really wanted to make a cornerstone of any experience that I ever made was that element of like spaciousness, supported spaciousness. Yeah. And so even in that first program, I had like integration weeks is what I had coined them, where we do like, we're on with content, and then you have a week to just sit with it and digest it and metabolize it and apply it and play with it and try it on. And that's so important. And so that's kind of why I do these like bi-weekly calls. And there's obviously going to be a resource portal with curriculum in addition to all of that as well, that clients can dive into inside of Amplify. But just having that space to fully receive information and then try it on for yourself and come up with, where am I finding resistance, and then be able to access support so that while you're digesting all of this, you're also able to have somebody in your corner as you're building the trust and the capacity in yourself to know that you can do it on your own. And that's something that it just feels so important, especially when the people that I'm working with, like, they're not just starting a casual, like, oh, I'm just going to do this like small thing that doesn't really matter. This is like their life's work. You're building your legacy, and you want to make sure that you're doing it on a really solid foundation that you feel like even years down the road, you can look back to when you were in Amplify or whatever experience that you're in and be like, wow, like the skill sets that I learned in here, never mind the information, were invaluable, and I'm going to carry them with me forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important, because especially when you're in live containers like that, I feel like you're like you said, you're just like taking all this information in, and then you go to apply it and you're like, now I have questions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, the time has passed. So I think that, and like you said, the longevity, again, it goes back to, this isn't just like a do this once strategy and then it's off trend. It's like, this is going to be relevant 30 years from now, this foundational work that needs to be done. And so I think that's amazing. If people miss out on Amplify though, how else can they work with you?
So currently I just opened up this space. I'm experimenting with Telegram. I don't know if it's going to stay on Telegram forever, but I just opened up a monthly membership called Sonance, where it's this beautiful broadcast channel membership. And I've just, over the years, I've had so many people come to me and be like, the power behind your voice, like just listening to you, like you even said, it's like a hug. Like, I would feel so supported getting to like receive voice notes from you all the time. And I was like, okay, done. Let's do it. So I opened up the space, and it's going to be really fluid as it kind of grows, but I really want it to be a space for living poetry, prayer, meditation. We can drop in and just do things that will help ground us on our journey, but also like a space for behind the scenes, because I know how valuable it is to just like peek behind the curtain of other people who are doing similar things, as well as opportunities for Q&A and kind of like micro trainings condensed and kind of oriented towards what the group is doing. So that's a $22 a month membership.
Oh, amazing.
And just like basically unlimited amounts of ability to connect and receive from me, which is really exciting. And then currently, it would just be the Exalted one-on-one membership or mentorship. And I'll probably have limited seats for that. I'm probably thinking like 2 or 3. And so that's a 3, 6, or 12-month experience. And that's all access. You get like carte blanche access to every single course that I've ever created. There's a resource portal. If you're in for 6 or 12 months, you also get access to Amplify. You get access to Sonance. You get unlimited Voxer and unlimited one-on-one sessions all month for the duration. So it really is just like, it's like an everything goes. And then I have 2 sneaky offers that are available only for mailing list subscribers.
Sneaky offer.
So they used to be public offers, and I just, knowing my capacity, especially with Amplify coming up, I wanted to create a little bit of a barrier. But I have a 1-month Voxer mentorship called Fortify, and then a 1-week intensive called The Opening that will be released kind of limited edition to the mailing list. So if you want to
how do they get on
have
your
access
list?
to that, I will send you a link so that you can put it in the show notes. Perfect. But there's a link in my link tree. And there's access to the mailing list on my website as well. So very easy to subscribe.
Lots of fun things though.
Yes.
And like you said, there's some exciting things coming down the pipe for the rest of the year. We're probably gonna have to do this again, because I need to catch up.
Yes, please.
Of other things. Cause I'm feeling like this year, like you said, there's things that are just kind of dropping. And so like, I'm like, this is the year of yes. Like I'm kind of up for anything, especially the things that like make me go like, oh, I don't know if that's for me, right? Like I don't do that, right? I've created a story. I don't do those things. Then I'm like, maybe this is the year. So I feel like we're gonna have a lot of good stories in like the next 6 months. Like you're gonna be like, I wrote a book and now I'm going on like a book press tour, or like, right? Like
I will give you an exclusive preview I can't say too much because I'm going through a whole process with it, but
Yep.
Amplify is like the amuse bouche, the like little tiny micro baby hors d'oeuvre of what's being built right now.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Okay.
I have a lot of work ahead of me and also very, very excited for what's coming. It's going to be very collaborative, very probably disruptive a little bit to the industry, and equally just so nourishing and delightful for anybody that is running a business and building a legacy. So
Love it.
yeah, you're the first and only person that knows this.
Well, that's it. We won't release the podcast. No one gets to know. No. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my
And
pleasure.
we'll have to do this again. You are, what's your handles?
You can find me on Instagram at I am Kelsey Lauren. My website is kelseylauren.life.
Okay.
And honestly, one place that's like very underrated that I'm starting to play with is Pinterest. I'm also, I am Kelsey Lauren on Pinterest. I've been having so much fun curating that space. If you can't be an Amplify, but you want all of the resources, I have some boards within my Pinterest that like everything you need to know to run, build, and start your business and become an amazing human, they exist in there as well.
Okay.
So.
We'll link all this below. So many
Yes.
goodies. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll do this again.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
And scene. Well, thank you. Genuinely. That was awesome. I feel like we could talk for hours, but we already know this.
Yeah.
Just like which
such a
path do we
fun
want to talk about.
conversation. Right?
Well, it's just so easy. That's why I was like, I'll send you questions, but I know I'm not gonna probably ask any of them explicitly. But I'm really excited about your program. That sounds amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to transform just a lot of people and the way they interact with their business. So
yeah.
I'm
Well,
excited.
hey, bringing like, that's just like I was saying, like the mix of like doing something you're so jazzed about and then helping people in the process. It's like, how can you go wrong? That's anytime I talk to people, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be annoying or like too salesy or gimmicky. I'm just like, if you are just trying to help people, they will not be mad at you.
Yeah.
So
that's something I had to like really get
over
myself with. Like
get over
talk to me 3 months ago and I would have been like, I can't sell. That's annoying. And now I just like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to go on my stories. I'll go on live. Like I'll say it on my actually, my podcast was a really great place to explore that because it wasn't face to camera, which I find really like,
which is great.
But at the end of a couple of my podcast episodes, I like leaned in and I was like, all right, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to introduce my work. I'm going to sell something on this episode. And it just created such a level of like ease and comfort.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, like this isn't edgy anymore. Like this is kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, I feel like you just got to do it. The more you do it, the easier it gets, but you have to do it. It's so funny because I'll like give advice to clients where I'm like, how often do you talk about your offer? Like you should be in there every day. And then I'm like,
once a week.
Like, am I in there every day? Am I doing it? Because like I said, people are still be like, what do you do again? I'm like, really? I feel like it's all I talk about, but I'm like, clearly I don't. So
yeah. I've had people in my community be like, oh my God, I've noticed you started like actually selling more. And it's actually really permission giving and inspiring that like I can do that too. Because every time I see your sales posts, I don't feel totally repulsed. I'm like, okay, I want to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, it's possible. Yay.
Yeah. The feedback is always good when people are excited for you. So